in history. Uhuru, comment, Vice Chair.
Well, thank you so very much, Chairman, always for your insightful presentations and comments. And now, which is just excellent, because now we're going to have a Q&A, a discussion for 30 minutes. Panelists, you can open up your cameras, especially if you want to participate in the discussion. Also, for anyone who is in the Zoom room, who is watching, please make sure to put any questions that you have in the Q&A. If you put it in the chat, oftentimes the chat scrolls and we can't keep up with them. But if you put them in the Q&A, we have a much better way of keeping up with them. And certainly if you are watching from the live stream, please also put your Q&A in the comments. We have people trying to monitor the comments as well. So let's open this up right now for Q&A, for question and answer and a discussion. Uhuru. Well, I'll just sort of lead this off, because one of the things that has been on my mind, especially with Juneteenth, that I don't say that in terms of Juneteenth itself. I appreciate and memorialize what our ancestors did. When I roll my eyes, I'm talking about that, a federal farce that they passed. But you know, I think it's so important, Chairman Yeshitela, and this is what I get from so much of what you're saying in terms of when we know the truth, when we know who we are, and also Sister Betty has been saying this too, then we will move in a certain way. They can't colonize us so easily. And just one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is how they captured the narrative, and they took away our agency. They took away our power with how they lied about the quote unquote Civil War, and how the North freed the Black people. They went to war to free the enslaved Africans. And that is not the truth about what happened at all. And we rose up and we had freed ourselves. But that's just one thing that I can think of when we're talking about this, when we're having this discussion. And that, of course, has significantly impacted us, because many of us today are like, oh my gosh, you gotta vote for Democrat or Republican. Oh, we just can't do anything without them. So,
you know, I want to say this to Sister Lisa. I don't know if you asked a question, but the hand raise is not working. But I have a question, and during the I don't know if you all remember, there was, you know, I'm just trying to bring it to reality of what we're facing right now here today. With the Biden administration election, there was a team of scholars that wanted to meet with that administration. I don't know if you remember, it was Ice Cube, and they promised them that they were going to meet with them so that they can talk about, you know, carve out what it looks like for us as Black people here in America, you know, our agenda and so forth. You know, I don't know all the good stuff that they were going to talk about, but the whole idea was that they promised them that they would meet with them, and it never happened.
they lied.
You know, so, you know, can we like talk about, you know, because I'm trying to wake my people up to the real reality of how the game is played, you know, with us, you know, while we're still running around, you know, looking for help in all the wrong places, like these people are going to really do something for us. You know, and when we have like the Uhuru movement, like I say, the African Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement have cracked the code on what we need to be doing as Black people in America for ourselves. You know, what else do we need to do? You know, how can we really open up the, you know, the minds of our people and get them to understand that, you know, all of these promises and all of this running and asking for permission and, you know, do this and, you know, begging and all of this stuff. We've been begging for 400 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that comment, Sister Belinda, is just making such a really important point. And it brings me back to the issue of free speech and why it's important, so important, because the thing is that what the government is doing is attacking those who are trying to stand up and move our community forward. Sometimes we have different philosophies and stuff like that, but we break from the narrative that has been created for the colonizers, and we're trying to push forward. We really try to represent our people, not a paycheck, et cetera. Like you, Sister Belinda Parker Brown, and so we are the ones. And you look at the Ice Cubes and all these other people, they got a big discussion they want to take, to Biden. If it's not them, it's Jim Brown who's going to do the same thing, and they can meet with Biden, and then Ice Cube was able to meet with Trump, and Brown was able to meet with Trump, and all of these people who are going to do things, but the real issue is meeting with the people. And that's the kind of work that you do. And that's the kind of work that we do. Understand that the foundation for everything that's going to happen is organized African people who are beginning to understand the relationship that we have. That's the power. And the fact is that our power gets used against us by white power. White power uses Black people against us. They can take things, like even, why was it important for Biden to have Ice Cube? To announce Ice Cube is going to be here, except because all these Black people like Ice Cube. And the assumption is he's proving himself. He's building his electoral base. He's running for office. He's building his electoral base by showing how the Democratic Party, and he, as representative of the Democratic Party, loves Black people. And he's going to talk with this great rapper and et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we get used. But you on the ground, fighting them in Louisiana, and it's too much to talk about just in terms of the horrors that we experience as a people, ongoing basis. It's a rotten relationship we have with this system, and they can't. Free speech is something that they found intolerable, because given an opportunity to speak for ourselves, we would tell the truth, and the truth is something that they can't stand. If you tell the truth, that exposes who they are, what the relationship is. And that's something that's really problematic for them. And that's why they have to say, this is not who we are. The Russians, somebody else told you to say that's who we are. Just because we lynch all these people, just because we put a knee on the neck of this man, just because we're killing African people every day, whether it's the police or whether it's a cracker who somebody knocked on the door and then gets blown away, this happens every day. And they say, you don't have a right, you can't say anything about it. And they will do everything. So the Russians told you to say that. It's malignant Russian influence. They would slander people who are doing that. And then they hold up this neo-colonial forces. They hold up a Ben Crump. They call Crump a civil rights lawyer. What in the hell is that? It's like these guys hit the lottery. Every time a Black person gets murdered, they hit the lottery. Bing, ka-ching, and what have you. And you see them standing in front of cameras telling Black people, just love everybody, don't fight back, don't resist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's who they want the people to hear. These elected officials, too cowardly to stand up and say a thing about Black people. And we see this happening daily and increasingly, even now, popular Negroes who pop up and they want to run for this and run for that. Say something about what's happening to my people. You can't say that because the white man will not accept that from you. But I'll accept it if you say it. And masses of Black people will accept it if you say it. And if you say it and mass of Black people accept it, then it's harder for the oppressor to do the kinds of things that they do to us. They give them permission. With their silence, they give them permission to do what it is they do to the rest of us. And to me, and to you, for stepping up. They make you crazy. You're weird. Because you're saying these things. There's something wrong with you. Uhuru.
And don't leave out the word mad, because mad mean crazy. Oh, yeah. And that's what they want us running around like a bunch of mad. Oh, yeah. My grandmother always told me that there's three kind of people that you're not supposed to mess with. And one of them is a tired, mad person. And the other one is, they say, beware of a fed up Black woman. And then the other one is that don't mess with no hungry person. So, we better, we better wake up and realize we all of that.
All of that.
We all of
All
that,
of that,
and
yeah.
we are certainly most, like you said, so profound,
Yeah.
Chairman, is that we are outraged.
Yes.
But we got to come up with the nexus on what we, what's next and how we're going to continue to win this fight. So that's what I'm excited about.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, we have a question from Beulah Okonkwo, and this person is asking, is the African People's Socialist Party expecting this new King Charles of England? I almost threw up with saying, oh, I see the question somehow went away. Okay.
Uhuru, yes, it's there. Is African People's Socialist Party expecting this new King Charles of England to promote change in England's neo-colonialist policies, increase the return of stolen art, treasures, and hopefully other resources?
See, sometimes they'll promote changes in neocolonialism and colonialism too. They'll promote changes within the colonial project. They call them pressure relief valves. They'll let Kamala Harris get elected, or Obama, or someone. They'll promote changes, but they won't end colonialism. They can't end colonialism. Only the colonizers in the final analysis are going to be able to do that. So yeah, if it becomes necessary, if they try to clean up the fact that the monarchy is in big time trouble, which came into existence through the colonial project, if they can try to salvage something about the reputation among the people who England presumes to rule over, if they can try to sanitize that, then they'll make some kind of changes. But they won't, they can't, what they cannot do is in that system. We have to end that system. We have to be able to realize the contradictions that's in there and have tactics and strategies to take advantage of them. So King Charles, Charlie ain't gonna do it for us. Charlie ain't never been the one who's gonna save us. And we used to call him Charlie, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. You're too young to remember that, when we used to call him Mr. Charlie. But so Mr. Charlie is not gonna do it for us, Sister Beulah Uhuru. Even if he makes some cosmetic changes. He may make some cosmetic changes, but that's all they're gonna be. They're gonna keep a stranglehold on our Africa and our resources. It's increasingly difficult. I mean, they stole all of these resources. Carmen Louise, I told you, is from Congo. And every year we would go to France. And we would go to all the big museums in France. And he would be the leadership because he knows France quite well. And he talks about how for the first time in his life, he had to leave Congo to come to France, to go to a museum in Paris to see knives that had been made by African people. He didn't know African in Congo had ever made knives. And here he goes to a museum because they got them all in the museum in France. This is what they do to us. They steal our resources, our knowledge, et cetera, and even deny us access to it. Vice Chair, I've spoken too long.
Oh no, this is a Q&A. We're having a discussion, so please keep the discussion going. I know for myself, and again, I've often referenced to the first time, Chairman, that I had the chance to meet you, although I should say hear you, because I don't think we formally met each other after that meeting, but you just presented such a way of looking at things that I had never thought about, because what I think this is the way it is for a lot of Black people, at least in this country, what we perceive as normal, because you don't question something that you think is normal. You don't even know to question it, is this colonial barbarity, really. Even, I mean, they have a nicer form of it sometimes when they smile in our face, but we think that this is the way to think, the way to operate. So I think most of us want a better way within this colonialist monstrosity. We want a better way at the table, not realizing that we shouldn't want to be in this at all. Turn the table over. You shouldn't want to be that. I mean, I have to just use this this metaphor. I don't want to sit at the table with Satan. That's just the best metaphor I can think of sometimes. But I think that's part of the issue. And when I began to be with, because that's how I had been thinking, well, I want better rights, I want equal rights, I want to make sure that they're not discriminating against me. And then when I became a member of the Black is Back Coalition, it became about, no, we should have control over everything within our lives. And this is an inferior way of living compared to what we have with Africa.
Yes.
So I just wanted to hear more comments about that, what other people have to say too.
I just want to add to that, Sister Lisa, that, it's just a time for us to be certain and for sure about, these targeting and attacks on, us and our, great leaders like the chairman. It's just time for us to be certain and for sure. It come a time in our life where we have to really know without a doubt that this is what they're doing to us. So, I'm looking for like key words, ideals, and and how we can put together, the Black is Back Coalition can put together certain statements or slogans or, just something catchy out there for people to realize that, we're on the right track. The only reason why they attack us, and like the chairman say, they come after they can't stand the truth. So, our people are there, like I say, I'm hungry right now. I'm hungry because I know hungry puts us in a state where, it means a whole lot of different things, but it puts us in a state of just being fed up, that I'm desiring for my people to understand what this is really all about, and to stop, celebrating their holidays, all of this happy Father's Day, happy Mother's Day, Dr. Martin Luther King Day. What does all of that stuff mean? It ain't done nothing for us, so I don't want their days. I want nothing that, it's not, so what can we do as the Black, and I'm telling you, I'm so excited because I know when I'm winning, okay, because I don't like to lose. So I know we winning with this, so we just gotta, I want somebody to just, keep this discussion going, because I'm feeling this whole webinar that, this is what the people need to see. This is what the people need to know. There's a lot of people out here that feel the same way that we do, but they just got to come on in and come on. Let's do a boom, boom, shakalaka. Let's get with it. I don't have all the words for it, but I'm feeling it though.
I feel you.
Were you about to say something, Comrade Louise?
Yes, we were. Yes, I appreciate Sister Belinda Parker Brown. I can feel your energy. That's what we should all be. We should be full of energy to fight for our freedom. That's really necessary. But I want to say something about about England. You've noticed, if you follow what's going on in England, I've never seen so many non-whites in the government, because the ruling class here has recognized the necessity to reform the system. As the chairman say, not to end colonialism, but to reform it, to make it, possibly more efficient, to accommodate all these representatives of other groups, so they can all be part of the colonial project. So they have the prime minister, which from Asia. They had
India, right? The prime minister is Indian, right?
Yeah, he's Indian. Yeah, that's the prime minister. And no one, of course, there's Obama in the US, but a few years ago, you couldn't say the prime minister of England would be Asian man, Indian man. So here, Asian usually means someone from India or Pakistan.
Yeah.
And the chancellor, the minister of economy, not this one, but the one before was an African. And before the African, there was an Indian. I've never seen a government full of non-white like today in England. You have a minister of police, the Home Office is India. Foreign Office minister is an African. So you have a lot of non-white in the government, so that's, that's really important to them. And also I'm not sure if you're familiar with what they refer to in England as Windrush scandal. Windrush was one of the boats probably that came from the Caribbean, bringing Africans to work here to rescue the motherland that was destroyed by the Second World War, by the Germans, the war with Germany. So the first Africans to come here, that was on a boat called Windrush. Now, that was like 1947. And most of the Africans who came here, they were young people. And if they came with the children or nephews or families, they didn't have a passport. They put the names on their parents' passport. So if I came in 1947, I have 2 or 2 children, my children would not have a passport, but the names will be on my passport. And many of them grew up here without a passport. And the British government destroyed the records deliberately, intentionally. That destroyed the record that will justify, that will validate to say those Africans who came here, they came with the parents, and that was it was legal. So they should not be considered as illegal. So overnight, thousands of Africans became illegal because they have no evidence that they came here in England, because the British government destroyed the evidence. And some of them, they could not leave England. If they left England, they couldn't come back because they couldn't prove that they came in England legally. So it was just unbelievable. You hear cases. I was here when I was 2 years old. Now I'm 50. I'm stranded. My parents or my mom died in England. I couldn't visit my parents in England. And these are the children of the Windrush. And now the Windrush, as a response, the outrage to the scandals that it created, they created Windrush Day. So the Africans are not mad at what they experienced. They're still experiencing. We've got Windrush children in jail. We've got Windrush children being expelled from public housing. We've got Black people homeless on the street. That's the Windrush children. So, but in fact, it was yesterday. Windrush Day. It was yesterday. Empty celebration, just to make sure Africans, don't get upset. And the king is dealing with it. So we see the king going around with Black people taking pictures, celebrating Windrush. There's nothing to celebrate. We want to celebrate our own power of ourselves, reparations, from King Charles and others. So this part of of the struggle that we need to push forward, things like that. So there is no end of colonialism just by itself. We have to capture power. I think the chairman made that point clear. That's really
so my brother, do they give them money to celebrate the Windrush Day?
Oh, they put some money. I'm not sure how much that people can claim. I didn't follow exactly how they're doing it, but the masses, the working class, not getting that money.
Wow.
That's
they really dumb us down, and then we run around and celebrate that stuff. Wow.
That's right.
We have
Uhuru.
2 questions and a comment. We have somebody, Samsung, I guess they are plugged into their phone, but this commenter says that voting for them has never, not ever benefited us, not one bit. We are done with them Democrats, spelled with an RATS at the end. And she said boycott, or that person says boycott the next election. And then in the Q&A, Leona M. asked these 2 questions. She said they are for any of the panelists, but there are 2 questions, but I'll combine them. She says, what methods and or techniques do you use to get over fear of people who classify themselves as white? And then part 2 of that question is to each panelist, what methods and or techniques do you use to get insight in order to start loving Black? I'm assuming they mean Black people. Thank you again in advance, she says. So, Uhuru.
Does anybody want to check that on? I think they're important questions, and I think that what's really important for us to understand is that loving oneself is naturally normal. Loving Black people, loving people who are like you would be natural and normal. Loving people who from the same social circumstances would be natural and normal. So some entity does something to us all the time to fight against our ability to love ourselves. And that's one of the things that made Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and Lumumba and Nkrumah and us and you so dangerous is because, by example, Leona, through example and how we are on the ground and doing the work that we do, we reclaim the definition of what Black love is. And Comrade Louisa mentioned this when he was talking about the question of African or Black intellectuals, is Black love is fighting for the freedom of our people. And, you know, this may sound like a distant kind of issue, but I'm somebody who, you know, lived through this entire Black Power movement in the 1960s and had to go through this thing where being Black was considered ugly and bad. And I've listened to people who talked about how they were insulted if they were dark-skinned, being African booty scratchers and stuff like that. That stuff, I've lived through that, but I've seen this movement that has developed. You know, the Black is beautiful, Black Power movement. In fact, right now where Comrade Betty and Ralph are located there in New York, a powerful Black is beautiful movement. You have people like Kwame Braithwaite, a photographer there, who really promoted this with Black photos, pictures of Black people that were put everywhere. That's the kind of stuff we have to do. We have to take this Black love out to our people and not rely on anybody else to do that. And sometimes we do this in the process of struggle. Like Comrade Sister Betty is talking about, fighting for control of these educational institutions. I mean, it should be an issue that the Black institutions in our community don't teach that. I mean, it's an issue that they have to teach it. It's an issue, some of you may remember that one of the bases that they use, the NAACP, to fight for the integration of the school system, based on the assumption that white people had to be in the same spaces that we were in for us to get an education. But one of the things they did, they gave these children tests, elementary, perhaps even younger than that, African children. And God gave them an opportunity to choose a doll, a Black doll, a white doll, and the majority of the children chose the white doll. Well, they would choose the white doll because everything in their lives depreciates being Black. It's not just, it didn't happen accidentally. There's no gene that we possess that says white is beautiful, etc. It's that they work on us all the time to make us experience not being beautiful. And hate, and this whole thing is imposed from the outside. I grew up literally as a youngster. I actually thought there were physical differences with African men who, as we aged, I couldn't quite get a handle on the fact that most Black men, older Black men I would see, they would always walk stooped down, their heads down, etc. I didn't know that had been beaten into them. I didn't know this whole thing about the daring to look a white person in the eye, or to even be assumed to have looked at that white woman, or any of those kind of things that get you killed. Getting off the sidewalk when the white man coming on the sidewalk, you have to get off, that kind of stuff. I didn't know, and this actually contributed to a physical deformity, and what I thought was a physical deformity for a long time, and it was just that Black men had been so beaten down and what have you, that they dared not to look like somebody who might offer a potential threat to white people, white sense of self. So that's part of that. It was a mind-blowing thing for me to come to understand what the hell was going on, what that was. Just terror that's imposed on Black people. And I think that we need to recognize that. And Sister Betty and somebody else, you, Sister Belinda, growing up, there's one thing I understood, that almost every African community, there's been somebody called a crazy nigga.
Mm-hmm.
White people walked around them. White people did not want to mess with, that's a crazy nigga. You understand? And there was an assumption that African didn't care about your whiteness, that African would do something horrible to you, your family, and everybody else. And there was always one in almost every, no matter how repressive a community was, there was this one crazy nigger, and that was a reality. But sometimes, of course, they would do set examples with the crazy nigger too, in terms of the horrible ways that they would kill him to break the will and the spirit of everybody else. But just talk about the crazy one, Sister Belinda Clark Brown. Mad.
I just want to do a quick time check if the tech people know how much more time we have for this. I think those are very important questions. I'll just say for me, one of the things that I do is to
3 minutes.
3 minutes, is to make sure that I am connected to people in my community and to the Black liberation struggle, and also to be connected to our history, because we had a lot of crazy niggas, as you said,
That's
lots
right.
of them.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm just going to share real quickly from Claudette Colvin herself. I had the opportunity to meet her. She was 15 years old when she first challenged before Rosa Parks did.
Well, somebody named Buck Davis had to be kind of crazy too, I would think.
That's interesting. My father, they call my father, but
I
yes.
know, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah. I don't even want to get into my family and my uncle and all that, because I saw him with my uncle's own eyes in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He took nothing. I would see white people cower before him, and he walked by himself. But anyway, Claudette Colvin, she told me, we all heard that she was arrested and everything. They dragged her off the bus. But Claudette Colvin told us that night her father sat up with a shotgun waiting for the Klan to come to their home. The Klan didn't come. So there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Loads of that. And if I could just share one other example, and again, I use the Civil War. We were not about fighting to save the Union, as I want to put it that way, and they basically whited out what we did, told this lie that the Union was fighting to end slavery, when the word went out by Lincoln from the beginning, it is a white man's war. Black people were not even allowed. They were told that if they come to you, if they come to send them back. And we know what the South was. They wasn't talking about liberating nobody under any kind of way, but it was you had many uprisings before then, but you had Black people, no matter what, that was like, we're going to end this. We're going to take advantage of every way we can to end it. So Black people were automatically organizing and everything long before the Emancipation Proclamation, and white soldiers were saying, oh my gosh, we can't win this without them, because they want to kick our butts and we can maybe utilize these Black people who were running away. But anyway, one of the first major battles that happened was the Battle of Island Mound. And this was before the Emancipation Proclamation. And these were by enslaved African people who had escaped. They're like, we're going to do what we got to do. And it was the Battle of Island Mound. They named themselves Fort Africa. And one of the first battles, at least that's noted, that talked about the Battle of Island Mound, happened in the St. Louis area. But this one person that I was reading about, Sergeant Edward Lowry, and he was fighting, had run out of bullets. The African people, they were outgunned and outnumbered. And the Confederates began to surround them. And there were 3 Confederate soldiers surrounding Sergeant Edward Lowry. They had shot him in the arm, so he was injured. And they're like, we're going to bring you back now. And he's like, you will never take me back. Surrounded by 3 white Confederates, he killed them all.
Fine.
They also run out of guns, but he took them out. And that was the spirit that we had. And that's what we need to emulate. And we'd have neither the North nor the South. None of them were on our side.
Never.
Close up, and we did it anyway. Uhuru.
Yeah, New York had gone through an issue about threatening to secede from the Union too. New York, the great anti-draft riot that happened in 1862, I think, was thousands. They murdered, I don't know how many African people and what have you. This whole myth about just being the South. It was a colonial economy, and that it enveloped the entire economy. So
there's a section in Brooklyn now
where when the rioters reached there, they had flintlock guns. And when they started clicking those flintlock guns, the whites knew they were armed, and that
Yep.
was the only section they did not burn, and it's in existence today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the issue of people's minds is you got to get them while they're young. And this is why we fight for community control of education. The first thing Eric Adams did when he came in power was to give large contracts to the charter schools. Now, I understand nobody wants to send their 7-year-old into a school that's white that will destroy them. But when you send them to a public school that's black, it can also destroy them if you don't exercise what is your actual legal right to be in charge of that PTA. And the thing is, administrative and organizational skills are simply that. They are skills. If you know how to organize the PTA, you know how to organize a church supper. You know how to organize for a political campaign. It requires the same skills. So this is why we fight for community control. It's the budget, as Ralph talks about. Right now, in New York City, the largest contract for computers is going to Israel. I mean, this is disgraceful. That's our money. And as people inside the Board of Ed, you have the right to determine where the contracts go. Now, I recently heard that the newest appointment in the office dealing with contracts, pardon me, asthma season, is a Black woman. And one of the things she has tried to do is to mandate, there's a book dealing with the issues around Cuba. And she has, authorized sending that, purchasing that contract. What I'm saying is, this is a training field. Community control of education is a training field for us. And you know, Chairman, how they tried to close out the entire public school system in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And you guys rose up to fight against that. I don't think you were entirely victorious.
No.
They shut down half of the schools, and the Blacks are traveling now.
Yeah.
To get to the rest of the schools. But if you had not done that, you would have been faced with what is going on in Texas right now.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted the sister to join us. Akua Holt, I'm sure you've heard of her. She's also was the producer of several programs on the Pacifica station in Houston, Texas.
Right.
And she's an editor of the Pan-Africanist Journal,
Yeah.
Black Journal. And I'm hoping, that she will eventually join us as part of the Black is Back Coalition. And
Sister Betty, I have tried to win members of my party and the Uhuru movement. We should join PTAs. We should create parent associations and sometimes parent-students associations when possible. And if there is no PTA, we should start it.
Exactly.
And the thing is that that's incredibly powerful political work. The parents and the students are, and that's the community. You know what I mean? We should join them. And
analyze the Board of Ed budget.
yeah,
There are all these codes. That's deliberate obfuscation.
yes,
You understand that. But
Yeah.
our role, if we don't want to, well, I know you don't like this word, if we don't want to be identified with the misleadership class, and that's
Yeah.
exactly why they do that,
yeah,
to make you feel it's too complicated, you can't understand it. Our role is to get there and interpret the bureaucracy for our community.
sure. And I'm tired of these Negroes. They say, well, you can't talk about colonialism. I understand it, they say, but it's too complicated for the people. The masses don't understand it. I mean, and what kind of arrogance is that? Negro, if I understand it, hell, anybody can understand it. That's my position. I ain't no different from anybody else. And that's really presumptuous. looking down on the people and is keeping information from the people and working very hard to make that the case. Yeah. Vice
And-
Chair.
Chairman, I just want to say, I think that,
Of Texas did, after he took over the largest Black district, was he set up a summer school where he is helping people train to be part of charter schools. So they have figured out that the biggest budget that is left to them is the
Yeah,
public education budget, but they ain't gonna tackle those white parents.
yeah,
They know they can take our schools and
Yeah.
convert them into charter school corporations
yeah.
and loot the money.
Mhm.
That's what this is about.
And I want to say that this section, we're going to have to come to the close in this discussion section. But I also just want to say that I have to say, and I have to credit the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement with getting that word colonization and colonizer out there, because now I see it everywhere. In fact, I'm wearing this shirt that says decolonized nation. I don't even remember where I got it from, but I picked it up from because I hear the word all the time, the colonizer, and we have to decolonize. And this is coming from
Yeah,
all sectors of the
Yeah.
population, and helping us to understand that we've got to get rid of this system. And I also just want to say that the discussion that we're talking about really brings out why we have to be active in demanding that they drop the charges against the Uhuru 3 and exposing what they did, exposing that this is happening under the Democrats. And we're not pro-Republicans either, but we have to look at what is going on and exposing that, and also exposing the vicious, scurrilous way in which they did this, because they did this in a way to take away the agency from our people and to make Chairman Omali Yeshitela basically look like he's just a mouthpiece for somebody white, because he can't think of what he's saying himself. And we should be, it is so offensive how they wrote up that indictment. And
Yeah.
as Black people, we should be standing up and not taking it any longer. Because that's how-
Right, Lisa, I gotta say this because you really opened up my eyes to something that people really need to know, is that when I begin to listen to, join up with the Black is Back coalition, I didn't know a lot about the colonizers, but it was more like I kept using the word, racist, racism, and all that kind of stuff. They was keeping us all tangled up in the gravy and in the
Mhm.
weeds. Really, to kind of like put us against, people, just like it's some good white people like Penny has, people that really, but they want to keep us like, trying to bring it about where we got to have a hate or, some type of, ill feeling towards people. Really, it's the colonized. What I found out was that the colonized, what that really meant. I wish I had more time to get it out, how I really feel about what people really need to know about when you being colonized, and Chairman, you can say, close it out with that, because see, that when I came to that reality, because I got more white people in my family than I do Black. Indian, Native American, I'm, down here in Louisiana, we some of everything, they call it, gumbo and Creole and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that, the colonizers, we need to really put a stamp on what that is and what it means to us as Black people.
Yes.
Well, Chairman, I do have a question for you. There
Go
is
ahead,
a
Cameron.
link between what is happening in Mississippi in terms of the determination of that governor to take over control of Jacksonville,
That's it.
and what we are talking about in terms of colonialism. Is there not?
We're looking at the same thing, and we're also looking at the relative weakness of our movement. I mean, at one time, though, Chokwe Lumumba, whom I knew very well, worked with, struggled against at different times. But his politics was based on the assumption that African people were a nation of people. Even though he limited to some kind of Black Belt South thing, we are a nation of people. And so what we had is a situation of colonial domination of a nation, a Black nation. But that wasn't what he worked with when he became the mayor. That sort of something disappeared, and his son Antar, Chokwe Lumumba, who I believe is a noble person and what have you. But when you liquidate the colonial question, then you disarm Black people, because what is it you're fighting for or against? You're fighting to get white people to like you. You're fighting to get better access to the system of your own oppression. You're fighting, and the contradiction has always been historically, and we've seen these two tendencies in our struggle, is to one, to make us more comfortable on the plantation, and the other is to end the relationship with colonialism. One, to make one more comfortable with slavery, and the other to get out of slavery. I mean, this has always been the contradiction, that the two tendencies, and there's been a group of people who've been elevated to, they have to kill the Nat Turners, they have to kill the people or imprison them who are actually trying to fight for the end of the plantation, the end of slavery, and what have you. And then they reward the others who will snitch and who will become part of that. And that's what, I hate this thing in Mississippi. And I know we would be much better capable of fighting if Chokwe were able to hold up the whole colonial question and say, this is what's happening to us. He mobilizes the masses of African people when he does that. And in St. Louis, for example, this attack that's happened on the party in St. Louis, the Uhuru movement in St. Louis, where one of the most so-called progressive Black politicians in this country is Cori Bush. But she's a progressive politician, essentially for white feminists and some other, white people. She's in the front lines to protesting the Roe versus Wade, et cetera, sit on the steps of the Supreme Court, but she hasn't said a single thing since this attack that was made on us. You got other, people who are like that. You got even Black crooks, and I mean these Negroes are crooks who are in government, who are in prison now. They're in prison because the FBI got them for taking bribes and things like that. They confessed to it. They're in prison, but you can't salute that. You can't even celebrate that, because once you give the colonizer permission to put your ass in jail, he gonna put you in jail. He doesn't care about them. The whole thing is that there cannot be any assumption of power in the hands of Black people when it's inconvenient. It works all right for the most time. They need those kinds of people because they can bust them. And then they bust them and they say that's indicative of the inability of Black people to be in power without being crooks. See, they put them there for that purpose. And they put them there and they seduce them with money and stuff like that. And then they hold them, they let them stay there for years. And then they bring them down real hard as lessons that how Black people cannot be in charge of our own affairs. That's because—
Ralph is in here in the background and he's saying that's the whole system. That's the way capitalism works. And I just want to bring up two more points.
But we're gonna have to get ready to close. This will be the last comment because we're gonna have to move on to the next section.
The Texas governor, as you know, Chairman, just signed the Death Star bill, is what they're calling it, stripping power from the local officials to make decisions with regard to labor rights, the environment, and etc. So this, under the what white people would call fascism, is what we would call total colonialism. And
it's always that. But here's what happens. The reason that they call it fascism is when colonialism begins to creep into their existence, their lives, and what have you. That's what they call fascism. But the thing is that if they keep closing down, see, this is the contradiction that they don't quite get. Yes. When they continue to close down all the democratic spaces, right? You don't have a right to do this and that. White people don't, African people don't. They're building an explosion that they will not be able to control because people are going to be determined to live and fight for their rights, and even the white people who are defecating.
And that's where we come in. Exactly. This is our time. In New York, Eric Adams is now going at a major war against Charles Barron, your boy, because Charles Barron came out to defend the workers' rights who are retired to their health plan.
That's right.
And now Eric Adams is going after Charles and anybody else
Yes,
who supports them. So it's open warfare now.
it is. And they give people no options, at least with the pretense of democratic rights. They got some space, but the more they shut it down, the more they prove to everybody that you're gonna have to fight your way out of here. I saw Comrade Alikia, who's been popping in and out. I think she's got something to say to us, Comrade Vice Chair.
Uhuru, yes.
Stop
It's
looking
just
at
that we
the
have to move. We do have to move to the next portion of
Right.
the program. And before I do that, I just wanted to say that while we did not get too many questions in this webinar, the chat, has been very active. We've been getting a lot of comments, some of them being made as presenters, were speaking and agreeing or elaborating on what certain presenters were saying. So throughout the chat section on Zoom and on Facebook, to acknowledge that we do see the comments that have been coming in.
Right, Uhuru. And I just want to also just say, Sister Alikia, because I know we're about to go into the call for resources,
Yes.
which will be about 10 minutes, but Cori Bush and all of the Congressional Black Caucus, while the Congressional Black Caucus introduced that scandalous bill monitoring the malign Russian activities in Africa Act, which called on the United States government to monitor the activities of all Black people throughout the world. Cori Bush signed onto that, and so did all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus and the squad and everything. And this bill they signed onto in the House before the FBI raided the African People's Socialist Party on July 29th. So that's what I basically got to say about the Congressional Black Caucus and members of that. That's what they do. Treacherous.
Well, the truth is they came for the chairman, and a lot of these people did nothing. So now they're coming after them.
Right.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
And I know that he's not participating with us right now, but MQ does say salute to Charles Barron for his struggle in New York. So I did want to read that.